Welcome to In Love. My name is Natalie Garnica, and if this is your first time coming in, I just want to welcome you and also welcome our next speaker. Her name is Dana Pierce, and she is someone who really focuses on self-love. She helps women in transition who are tired of not living up to their highest potential in their life and work. Dana offers a blend of science, spirituality, and the art of self-love to help her clients tap into their confidence and claim what they truly want. So thank you, Dana. Say hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here, Natalie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, when I came across you and your work, I was like, I would love to have Dana here because you on your website say self-love is one of your main focuses. And obviously this is what we're focusing on here today, which is to tune inward, right? To really come back to ourselves and give ourselves that bit of extra love that we sometimes forget that we deserve. So Dana, maybe you can start a little bit of sharing what you do for your clients and kind of like the journey that brought you to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So, self-love is everything. It's like such a huge, been a huge piece or journey for me. And so first of all, what do I do? So I mainly work with women who are in transition. And this is really where my journey with self-love really developed so much more deeply. So a lot of the women that come to me are either having, it can be a lot of different transition in life. It can be relationship, it can be work, job, it can be a lot of different things like that. And they're usually just feeling kind of stuck and they don't know exactly, they feel that tension of knowing that there's something more for them or they need something, they need to change something in their life or something like that, but they don't really know exactly what to do. So they feel that kind of, I call it like the ugliness. They feel this sort of uncomfortableness and it can be very emotional. It can be a lot of different things, right? But it's kind of this ugly feeling of just knowing that you're out of alignment, something's not right, and something has to change. And so my personal story is, I've had a lot of transition in my life, and it was interesting because I kind of went back on this not that long ago. I realized how much transition I've had even from the time I was young. I was adopted, I was in foster care for 3 months early in my life, and and all these other things. And so it kind of came to a head in the last few years of just realizing that I had gotten so far off track and out of alignment with myself. And that's really what brought me to this work. So I come to my work very experiential, been there, done it. So, and yeah, on many different.
I really love that you shared that. It's like, you're like, oh, I've been through many transitions, because that's what I think part of self-love is. Understanding that it's not like a one-time thing, like, oh yay, I found self-love, I appreciate myself, and that's it. No, it's like a workout, right? It's like we need to consistently be working on it and knowing that eventually we're going to plateau, right? Whatever worked for us at one point is going to no longer work after a certain time, right? Like we're going to have to find new ways to tap back into ourselves, because as we grow, so should the way we take care of ourselves, right?
Yeah, so I love that you say that. So for me, I see it like it's a practice and a journey. You're exactly right. There's not like really an end result, or a final destination, I should say. I mean, the end result, I hope, is that we feel really good in ourselves and we feel in alignment and we're making good choices for ourselves and that sort of thing. But and you said something earlier that I love too. I feel like we live in a society today with this whole concept of self-love. We live in a society where it's like looked upon as selfish. Somehow we're being selfish. Like so many of the women that I talk to, it's like they think that they're being selfish by by filling up their own love cup. And I try and explain to them, like, here's the deal. We're not supposed to be giving from our love cup. Our love cups are supposed to be full, and we're supposed to be giving from the surplus, the overflow. That's what we're supposed to be giving to our partners and our kids and our communities and our whatever it is, right? We're supposed to be giving from the overflow. And I mean, I think a lot of women today are like seriously dipping deep into their love cups to try and bring, because they're not full. They don't have them full themselves.
Or I think because of that, as a result, since they're the ones like giving so much love, I guess we expect that we're going to receive it back, right? Like, oh, so we'll get it back from someone else. We'll get it back in return. And when we don't, it's like a disappointment, right? It's like a letdown. And we're just playing these fairy tales in our head that may not happen later on. So
yeah, I see my world as a reflection of myself, as a mirror reflection of myself. So yeah, so if I'm coming to my relationships though, giving, and I'm so depleted, right? I mean, receiving, believe it or not, receiving is also one of the most difficult things for human beings to do. It's a lot easier to give. It's really vulnerable, very vulnerable to receive. And a lot of us aren't really good at that. So if we're just giving, and we're giving from this sort of depleted place, then that's what's being mirrored back to us. So absolutely, I agree. It's like, you know, and you know, I do a little piece on daring to desire, and it's really true. I mean, as women, we're not really good at, there's sort of this expectation we have sometimes that people are supposed to read our mind and know exactly what we want, right? I think Mama Gina, she wrote a couple books and stuff. She's really funny. I don't know if you've ever read any of her stuff, but she talks a lot about this and how we're like expecting people to read our minds. And yeah, no, the love's not going to just pour in on you, unfortunately. It's
and
just.
I like that you say that too, because, you know, instead of trying to find the happiness, the love in other things, other external things, you know, the reality is that we're the ones who are going to be giving ourselves the best kind of love, because we know, right? Like I can read my own mind. So why not be that person to provide it for myself? And if other people want to provide it as well, as a result of seeing that, you know, reaction. And I think that's something good to remember, right? It's like people see you behave a certain way and they'll be like instantly attracted to that. Right? They're going to be called to be like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Oh, let me be part of this.
Right.
Yeah, really starting with ourselves. It's like, okay, I can't read his mind. I can't read her mind, but I can read my own mind. So let me give me what I want. You know, why wait?
Model that for people, right? Like modeling, because I love what you're saying, and what's coming up for me is, I mean, a big part of self-love is boundaries. Having boundaries, knowing our yeses and nos, right? That's self-love. I mean, self-love is honoring yourself first, right? Honoring like that. That's the bomb. That is right there. That is
taking out the shame of it too, right? Like you were saying earlier, like taking the shame away of like, because for my personal experience, like up until recently, have I been more strong about my boundaries because I was afraid of like not being liked, of like people forgetting about me if I didn't show up, or people thinking that I didn't care enough about them because I
might hurt somebody's feelings.
And at the end of the day, like when I started finally saying no, I feel like I realized no didn't really care.
Right? That was, I love this. I love this. It's like, I always say, we're making this stuff up. You know that, right? Like we're making up these stories in our head about what other people are thinking and and the expectations and what we're actually making that up. Like I just want to put that out there for everybody to know you're making it up. Because 99% of the time, none of that's going on. That's your own stuff, right? That's your own. Yeah. So, and that's what I coach to a lot is like, what are those inner stories that we're telling ourselves? Because they're really not out there. They're really not, like I said, your world is just a reflection, a mirror reflection of you. So you know, so clean up the stories and the beliefs that you have within yourself, and guess what? Your whole entire world will change. Your
Hmm.
whole entire world changes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
so
awesome.
through, I know earlier you shared with me that you recently went through a divorce, and during that time, you had to do a lot of your own self tuning in, like really looking into yourself and finding that what really nurtured you. So what were some things that you personally experienced during that time? Because I know a big transition for a lot of women. Not they may not be technically divorced, but in any relationship when things just fall apart, it's like a reprogram, right? So what are
Yeah.
some things you can share?
Yeah, well, and I'm not technically divorced yet either, but
Oh,
no, it's okay. But yeah, this idea of sort of unpacking a very like a 21-year relationship, right? And dismantling it. And yes, I mean that is where we're heading. But yeah, so what were gosh, the first thing that actually came up for me when you asked that question is, so, well, let me, this is really, I love this. This is such a great question. So let me kind of step back a little bit. So one of the first things that I established for myself, because it was I was like, I had anxiety attacks. And I mean, I was full on. It was a big deal, right? It is a big deal. There was a lot of fear for me. There was a lot going on. And so one of the first things that I established for myself that I feel was like self-care, self-love, was a really good routine of nourishment, movement, and meditation. And those became sort of my foundational pieces, so that I had something kind of every day to go to. And and I'm careful not to say like diet and boot camp, and it wasn't that. It was just really having a really strong foundation piece of taking care of myself, right? Knowing that I was well nourished, knowing that I was moving my body on a regular basis, whatever that meant. And of course, there's great endorphins that we get from that. And then breath. And breath was vital. And actually, I'm excited because I think I'm going to share a little breath with you guys today, too. So I'm excited about that. Okay. So, breath. And then some of the deeper work that came in after that, once I kind of had that established and I was okay and I was being able to kind of ride the roller coaster of what was happening in my life, one of the other pieces that came in that was really, really, really empowering was doing something called shadow work. And shadow work is really, I don't know, I guess that's kind of maybe a woo-woo name for it, but it's really about um, starting to go in and really connect with those unclaimed parts of ourself. That's really all it is. So those parts of ourselves that have, where we've gotten kind of, where we get triggered and pieces, and to really start doing some healing work. Just really go in and do some healing work. And once that process started, things really, really shifted for me. And so to take it back to a self-love piece, it's really about loving all parts of yourself, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. And what I've found over the last couple of years, over a few years, is the more that I'm able to do this, the more that I'm really okay with myself, and I can really fall in love with myself and really be in love with myself. And it erases it erases fear, it erases anxiety, it erases all of those parts, all of those symptoms, because because you're fully in love with yourself.
yeah.
Right? And you're allowing compassion and grace and all of those things for even those darker parts of you. It's like we all have it, right? We've all made mistakes, we've all done things we regret, we've all, whatever it is, right? So when we can really do that work. And for me, there was, like I said, I'd had a lot of transitions in my life, and I don't think I hadn't really been able to heal a lot of those pieces, right?
You
So
know,
so
the word compassion came up for me yesterday. And it's a strong word, because we're willing to be so compassionate for others' mistakes. We're like, oh, it's okay, but when it comes to ourselves, I feel, especially for me, I'm so critical. right? I'm just like, how could you? Why'd you do that? What, you know, like the beat down is so strong.
Yeah.
And but once you step back, see yourself as maybe the same way you would see one of your best friends, you
Yeah.
know, or maybe, you know, a family member, then it's so much more gentle. It's so much lighter. And also maybe instead of seeing those dark parts, those sad parts as a downfall, if anything, that's like your strength. You know, that's what made you who you are now, right?
Hallelujah. You're exactly right. They do, they become your superpowers, right? They become your strengths. And like I said, I mean, that's the power of the coaching that I do. That's why I have the power that I do, is because when you're willing to look at that. So yeah, yes, it's the inner game. And you're so right about being critical of ourselves. Like, holy cow. And women in particular, man, we're brutal. We are brutal on ourselves. Like, and it's interesting because when I started kind of getting into this a little bit more, I'm like, oh yeah, I got that one. Okay, yeah, I see that, whatever. And then you don't realize there are like deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's the shadow work, is like finding those deeper pieces of where you're really taking yourself down, girl. You know what I mean? Like, you are really taking, and for what, right? For what? And if we could only be as compassionate with ourselves and as loving with ourselves as we are, like you said, with others, I mean, wow, what an amazing world this would be. And that's my mission. That's my mission, is to get everybody loving on themselves first. And then, like I said, it's a mirror. The world's just a mirror after that.
This is true. This is true because that honestly, what people are always quicker to see sometimes, like your light, your inner light, that sometimes you're just too either afraid or again stuck in those stories to want to see. And but when you finally do get to that place, I had so many people, like when I finally got to a place where I was like really allowing myself to be seen again,
Yeah.
they were just like, wow, it's about time. Like, we've been waiting for this. Like, this is the real you. This is the authentic you. You
Yay.
know, to allow yourself to be fully seen. And that is it's so life-changing when you allow that to happen, to allow other people to be that mirror for you. Because if you're too busy like hiding and masking what's really going on,
Yeah.
you're not allowing even because again, that what you might call a weakness now, your strengths to shine.
Oh, absolutely. Can I share a little story with you on that? That this is interesting, because I had a witness to myself just over the last little while, where I was in two different circumstances, two different situations. And one of them was with some really high vibe people, and you know, and I just felt amazing. And I was looking back on some photos, and I mean, it was just like I was so open, right, and so in my zhuzh, and I was just like having an amazing time. My energy was so high, and it was just great. And then a week later, I ended up in a kind of a similar situation, but with different people and different circumstances. I was with people that were maybe a little more, you know, a little more critical of themselves, a little more, and I was really aware of this because I'm very empathic, which I've learned is one of my superpowers. My intuition and empathy is my superpower. It's not my weakness. And I, you know, I was really, really witness to where I started to lower my vibe, because I didn't want to show up too big. I didn't want to show up I didn't want them to feel bad. I didn't want, do you know what I mean? And I saw it, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You know better than this, right? And so I just like, you know, I raised it up, and it was just an amazing thing. I was just such an awareness of how we do that. And you know, like you were saying, I mean, I think sometimes we do it thinking we're in service to others. But my belief is, anytime we're dimming our light, we are not in service to anyone. We are not in service, and it is better for us to shine our lights. And I mean, obviously, we can be discerning of a situation, but we still bring your light, right? Because that, then we're modeling that and inspiring others to step into their highest potential, their highest, you know. So yeah, I was like, wow, holy cow.
I love that you're sharing this, because I've personally experienced that as well, where you just want to be respectful of everyone else and allow them to shine as well. That is definitely something, but there's a way to do it without dimming your own light.
Right.
And we think that by dimming our light, then we allow others to shine. But why can't we all shine together, right? Why
Yeah,
can't we all be at our highest, at our best at all times?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think that's something really beautiful and important to think about as people start going through their personal love journey, and also not feeling ashamed of it or feeling afraid of shining because of that other story, right? Of like, oh, well, now I'm going to be, I don't want attention. I don't want, that's what people think sometimes when they're allowing themselves to be actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a super beautiful and important.
Yay.
Okay, so I know earlier you shared how, during this time, one of the biggest things that has gotten you through, especially your anxiety and being able to tap in, is breath.
Yes. Yes.
And I've heard it many times where it's just like, if anything's going crazy, just breathe.
Yeah.
And sometimes that sounds a lot easier than what some people might think.
Right.
But yeah, I would love for you to share how easy it really can be, especially during the chaos.
Right. Right. So I think I love what you're saying. And I think sometimes, like, just to say, okay, just breathe or whatever, a lot of people don't really even understand what that means. So I love, in this case, putting it into a little bit of a context, right? Like giving someone an actual little. So this is a breath that I learned. So my coaching, I actually started as a health coach and then moved into what I do now. I evolved into it. And this was one of the ones that I learned from that, and it's called a 5-5-7 breath. And it's super, super simple. It's free. You can do it anytime. You don't even have to close your eyes. So this isn't like big meditation or anything like that. And it takes about 2 minutes if you do like the full one. I'll give you a sample here today. And the benefits, the health benefits, and so this is like a jewel. This is a gem to kind of have. And one of the reasons that we used it in the health coaching was so for any ladies out there who want to lose weight or anything like that, and it's even not even just weight, but better nutrition, better absorption of nutrition in your body. Because anytime that you're in a stress state, and a lot of us are in stress states, even low-grade stress states, almost all the time, your entire digestive system is actually shut down. All the blood goes out to the other parts of your body for fight or flight, right? And so your system is shut down. So you're not even getting the nutrients and stuff like that. So that was one of the areas. But it's also amazing before you go to sleep, right? To just bring yourself down, slow down, and get a really, really good sleep. I've seen it benefit people for anxiety, for fatigue, all sorts of things. And it's super, super simple. So do you want to do it with me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. All right. So just sit comfortably. And like I said, you can close your eyes or you don't have to. It's totally up to you. Just a nice sort of straight spine, feet flat on the floor, or you can sit cross-legged, whatever works for you. And what we're going to do is we're just going to simply inhale for the count of 5. We're going to hold the breath for the count of 5. And then we're going to exhale for the count of 7. Yeah, so it's a little bit longer exhale than inhale. And then I'll guide you a little bit more. So why don't we get started with that? So and some people ask, like, what's the count? So first of all, if you're straining, make it faster because you're not supposed to strain. You really want to be taking in on the in breath, the 5 count. You want to take in only to about 2/3 capacity of your lungs. So you don't want to be really you know, holding in. And I often find if you can get a sense of your heartbeat can often be a really good source of like counting. Like it has a good rhythmic count to it. So that's just a kind of, again, a natural way of tuning in and, you know, checking in with your heartbeat and then like that. So, okay. So, so we'll inhale to the count of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hold for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then exhale for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and inhale for 5. I'll just let you kind of go at your own pace. And ideally, you want to do this about 10 rounds. That'll get you to a couple of minutes. I'm going to add a few little more cues to this as well. So as you're doing this breath, really putting your focus on your senses. So once you kind of get into the rhythm of the breath and the counting, and start to just pay attention to, you know, the air in your nose. If your eyes are closed, you maybe see sort of the orange or red of, you know, your eyelids. Any smells that you hear, feeling your butt in the chair, your feet on the floor, and just any sounds that you might hear, at this point my voice. And just sort of keep breathing and keep scanning. And as you do this, what this breath does is it actually tricks your central nervous system in believing that you are not stressed. So, so anytime you're in a stress situation, I've used it at dinner parties where, you know, somebody's maybe said something that's triggered me or something like that. And like I said, you don't have to close your eyes and go into like lotus pose or anything, right? Like you can just drop in and go, wow, okay, I just need to. And it literally, what does it do? It tricks the central nervous system and turns off stress and activates a physiological relaxation response in your body. So like I said, for sleep, before eating, in any stressful situations, you literally are just tricking your body into believing that you're not stressed anymore. Pretty awesome tool, huh?
I love it because, especially when you said earlier, if you are able to tap into even your heartbeat, you know, that's like where our central like love is, right? That's where it all goes into.
Yeah, right.
And to be able to slow down your breath, to connect into that, or even if you don't connect into that, to connect into the rest of your body, the rest of your senses, and kind of get out of here, right? The head, to get out of your head and back into your body is so important.
Yeah. And I love what you said too, because usually if you're in a stress state, you're in the primitive brain. You're in your back, your brain, the brain cell, your back brain, which is your fight or flight brain. And not to get too sciencey on you, but that's your reactivity brain, right? You want to be in your frontal lobe. This is your thinking brain. This is your rationalization brain. This is your adult brain, right? And that's exactly what it does, is it helps you get out of fight or flight and get back into able to be in cognitive, conscious thought, make good decisions, whatever the situation is. Yeah. So,
you know, that's really interesting. I don't know the science behind it. And at the same time, I recently was sharing how, you know, just depending on the person, like being physical when they get upset, or being very like aggressive when they are feeling like emotionally attacked, it happens, right? Like some people are just triggered to react in that way based off of whether they were brought up that way through just their communities and or homes. And at the same time, knowing that we can shift that, right? Because it's triggered through that fight or flight.
Yeah.
That feeling of like, I'm being attacked, I therefore need to attack back, whether it's verbally or physically. And
Yeah.
if we want to be more loving human beings, not just for ourselves, but in general, I think this is a beautiful way to get there. You know, like, thank you for letting me know that science part. I don't know. I'm pretty geeky. I love hearing all these science parts.
I do too. I love it. I like to put it all in, like I say, science, spirituality, and the art of self-love. Bring it all together. So I'm a little myself.
So I really like that you brought that to my attention, because that's something that I personally have thought about more and more. Like, how can we create more love, and obviously starting with ourselves. That's such a beautiful tool to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The brain is a really powerful tool. This is the center of it all, though, right? Right here. This is sort of just the processing system, but it is amazing our mind's capacity to. I mean, that's the biggest part of my work. I do like behavioral change and mindset work, and that's how I kind of moved out of it from the health coaching, because as much as I enjoyed that, I saw the potency and power of really being able to shift our beliefs, even on a core identity level. Like, that's how I help my clients move from like patterns that they're just stuck in, right? And it's really as simple as creating new neural pathways in the brain and letting that be your new norm, and creating new behaviors that become your norm. And then you don't even have to think about it, and you've made these massive shifts in your life. And it's like, that's your new baseline. That's just the way it is now. But yeah, because you were saying about beliefs and like from our upbringing and, you know, all that stuff, right? I mean, it's
having to like deprogram these like social behaviors that we were taught through, you know, and obviously everyone has different cultures, and they're all going to vary, you know, and so that's like something that I really would like to let people understand, that in this process, as they're going through their journey of self-love, there's no one right way of doing it, right? But there is going to be a deprogramming of a lot of things that we were taught to believe. You know, it doesn't matter what it is that we do in order to get there.
and I get what you're saying about deprogramming, and it's interesting because what's coming up for me is I feel like I even kind of bypass that in a way. Like, I know what you're saying about deprogramming, and it's like, I don't know, it's like, for the way that I work, we don't even have to go into that. We don't even have to dismantle it. We don't have to, do you know what I mean? You can literally just find, like, I get people to tap in. What do you want? Actually, you know what I do? I use this all the time. If you were to wave a magic wand, like, what would you want? What do you want to shift or change in the next, 120 days or whatever it is, right? And then we really draw, a line between here and there, and we figure out how we need to get there. And yeah, sometimes it is looking at some of those old, and maybe that's what you mean. Some of it is looking at those old, but this is another science piece. I don't know, we're getting into the science here. Those parts of you that have those beliefs, you will never get rid of them. You will never get rid of them. They will always be there. And one of the biggest, I just actually did a coaching session right before I got on with you here today. And it's about how can I put it? I kind of lost my train there for a minute. What was I saying?
Oh, about how it's not like you're never going to get rid of it.
Oh, right. Thank you. So you're never going to get rid of it. I kind of went into the coaching session for a minute. I'm back. You'll never get rid of those. And what we do is, one of the pieces that I work with a lot is called parts work. And we acknowledge those parts of ourselves. This is part of the shadow piece too, right? We acknowledge those parts of ourselves, because every part of you has a positive intention. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, those behaviors that are not winning for you anymore were developed at one point in your life to protect you.
Okay.
Yeah. So we want to thank those parts and say, you know, like, thank you so much for holding this for me for so long, because you are the solution to a problem that I had back then. What we want to do now is we want to upgrade that and just say, we've got some new behaviors that we want to put in place. And, you know, nobody's going to get fired. Nobody's going to get, like, literally, because these are parts of our ego, our psyche. Like, we have to be, we want to be really careful with that, right? And say thanks. And because they don't go away. You can't, I don't know, you can't really get rid of them. They're parts of you. They're just parts of you. But you can reframe them, and you can get them working, using that positive intention that they have, working for your benefit now through different behaviors and through different ways of, I don't know, am I getting too technical here?
No, like, it kind of just ties back into like what we were saying at the beginning, where it's like we're going to like a workout, right? We're just going to change our workout a little bit different, you know, change our diet a little bit different, because now we're trying to like get this end goal, you know, like if I'm trying to lose 20 pounds and, you know, I did this type of workout and this diet for this many months, it's going to get to a point where you're not going to lose the weight anymore, or it's not going to give you the same type of results.
Yeah.
Right? And so and so I totally get it. It goes back to like,
exactly. So it's like, this is working for me anymore. Now what do I do that I help my ladies with, because they're stuck. They're like, okay, it used to work, it's not working.
And it's
anymore.
like, I'm not going to take carrots out of my diet now because this diet isn't working for me. It's now I'm going to use it in a different way. I'm going to eat it this many times a day, or not that many times. You know, it's like, so I get it. You're not going to get rid of it. It's still going to be part of it, but in a different way. Totally.
Yeah, and I like that. That's a great analogy. So we just kind of need to tweak it a little bit. You know, we need to just find those little, like, what are those little hidden beliefs, right, that are kind of running in the background, because they're always running. And then how do we just say, oh, guess what? We're going to do a little upgrade here, right? We're just going to do a little shift, do a little upgrade, and then send them on their way. And then all of a sudden, that's, like I said, and then that's your new way. And I mean, that's the beauty of it, because it's permanent and it's done. It's just part of, you've just sort of, now you're telling yourself a different story, right? And whether it's, sending loving messages to yourself, or whether it's whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And the shift that happens in the outer world is like phenomenal. You make those little shifts. I always look at it, it's like 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree. And before you know it, you've made like a massive shift in your life. So, and whether it's relationships, work, you know, any of it. I
like that visual. I like that visual. It's like, it's
like 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, and all of a sudden 1% is like, yeah.
I love that. So if some of our ladies want to get to know you a little bit more, how can they find you? And also, I know you have like a juicy offer for them, so maybe you can share a little bit of that too.
Sure. You can find me at, I don't know if you're going to post some of this, but danapierce.com is my website. And I don't know, what am I on Instagram? I don't know. I think all that stuff's there, but, and I would just love to offer, a complimentary 45-minute clarity coaching session. It's not just a discovery call, it's an actual coaching session, that I do to really help women get really clear about where they're at, where they want to go, and like we've been talking about, what's been holding them back. What are some of those pieces, those beliefs, those stories, those things that are holding them back? So I would love to invite and I think, are you going to put you'll attach my scheduler link? Yeah, so just
right below. So if you ladies want to get to know Dana a little bit more, and really, if you're ready to shift things in your life, like if you're ready to just get uncomfortable, because I think that's the other part, right? Like we need to get uncomfortable and really dive deep into ourselves and ask ourselves, what are those things we want? You know, again, we're afraid sometimes to really be real with ourselves. Like, this is what I
Yeah.
want, because
Yes.
maybe it's not what we're used to anymore, and it's okay. But I hope
I love
that.
that. What do we want versus what are we supposed to want? This
Yeah,
is a big one. And again, for women, men are raised more to be okay with having desire and having whatever. We're not. For whatever reason, we're not raised to be really connected to that. So yeah, I love that. Like what? And the truth about the uncomfortableness, most of my clients, when they come to me, they're already really uncomfortable. Will make you too uncomfortable. You're probably already feeling that, that. But you're right, and the truth is, I have that as one of my alarms on my phone is like, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, because the only way that we will reach the desires, the things that we truly want, the only way that we will make those changes in our life, shift the relationships that aren't working, get that job promotion that we want, whatever it is that you want, the only way that you're going to do it is you're going to have to be uncomfortable for a little bit. And I have done a lot of work myself around fear. And I see fear as like this incredible, it's like excitement on pause. It's like this like, okay, and now I see it that way. I used to feel like, oh my God, but now it's like, no, okay, if fear's coming up, it's like, okay, something's calling me. It's time. I'm ready. I'm going in.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ladies, take advantage of this call, because it might be that thing you need in order to really just tap into yourself. Right now that we're building these new self-care habits, hopefully you can use Dana as a guide into diving deeper into yourself. All right.
Yeah, if it's okay, you know what? Maybe I'll put the link to my survey up there as well, because I've had so many women say to me that even just taking the survey or just even getting on the call with me has just been so beneficial to them. They've found like clarity and they've found pieces that they were looking for. So I'll send that. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, awesome. I'll send that to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, I had so much fun meeting you, getting to know you more. And like I said, ladies, I hope you enjoy your day. Take this time to go into yourself and love yourself a little bit more. All right. So until next time, have a lovely day.